and welcome to today's video. We're going to be talking about seasonal affect disorder. So this actually affects between 2 to 20% of people within the UK population. Now, people in the research have suggested that it could be actually potentially higher. So a lot of people get misdiagnosed or underdiagnosed. And it's very common with people with bipolar, in particular, the research says. The reason being is that oftentimes people with bipolar work really well with structure. At this time of the year when it's incredibly chaotic, there's money worries. If you've got a very destructive family of origin, that can be quite stressful. You're going to more social occasions, you're putting on more weight, doing less activity. Again, there's this whole disruption in the cycle of your own routine. It comes away from your own norm. People with bipolar usually do well with the routine because it gives them a sense of stability, it gives them a sense of achievement when they follow a routine. And then when they have appropriate sleep and weight cycles, it actually decreases the manic episodes one can experience if you have bipolar or depressive issues. So the first thing I would say is, obviously, like I've just suggested then, I would recommend having a routine as best you can, so having appropriate sleep and weight cycles, and also just try and planning your day ahead. My next thing is the research actually suggests people with depression actually tend to suppress their anger. People with depression in and of itself usually suppress their negative emotions, which causes actually you to suppress your positive emotions. Oftentimes people are pressured at this time of the year to be jolly, to be happy, to be merry, when they're really not actually that at all. And what they have found is people who can express their anger appropriately in a healthy manner usually tend to be more optimistic, more confident. Pete Walker talks about actually physically angering, which I actually recommend as a tip. So you actually express your anger in a safe haven. You can actually mute your volume down and physically anger loss you've experienced, maybe a rejection, a failure, and it actually promotes the feeling of confidence, certainty, and calmness. And it actually alleviates shame, guilt, fear, and rumination. The next thing is that I would suggest doing some kind of inner critic work, so try and champion over the inner critic. I call this combative self-talk. Oftentimes if you have very, very bad c-ptsd, which is the trauma induced in early infancy from adverse conditions, oftentimes you have a very violent, hyper-aggressive inner critic. So again, to try and dethrone it and actually prevent it when it comes online from actually sabotaging you, inducing toxic shame, neurotic guilt, confusion, self-hatred, all this stuff which actually promotes low self-esteem, to promote high self-esteem, challenge the inner critic, and promote a sense of well-being within yourself. To actually complement the combative self-talk, I would actually recommend doing some form of self-compassion. You stay with your pain, you stay inside of it, and you make sure that you're comforting yourself. Again, this is the extension as well of self-forgiveness and being patient with yourself as well. Another tip is to actually weight train. Weight training is shown to decrease anxiety. A lot of times with people, if you have a very excessive freeze response, so you typically go into this kind of playing dead scenario when you're stressed, or you zone out, or you teleport out into your imagination, you store a lot of your stress in your body. So I would actually recommend doing a lot of weight training to relieve that bodily stress. The next thing I want to suggest is hot showers. It actually induces an oxytocin response within the body, which is the bonding chemical we get when we socialize, because it produces a feeling of warmth, which is very closely related to the feeling of love. My next tip is to maybe try and experiment with moderate doses of caffeine. That is been shown to be kind of like a natural antidepressant, increases dopamine. On the other side of the coin, where you have too much coffee, people in the research suggested the 300 milligrams mark is where it induces more of an anxiety-based response. Have it in the first part of the day, is in your system typically for 4 to 6 hours. Next thing is actually light exposure therapy, so that people having just a walk outside, getting around in nature, increase your mood. Obviously at this time of the year, it's a lot darker, there's not as much sunlight, so people aren't getting the vitamin D and serotonin and stuff like this. And even if it's for 10 to 30 minutes, go ahead, it'll improve your mood. You get out, you get into the social sphere a little bit more. The last thing is just to follow some form of life purpose, that when you have a life purpose, it acts as a buffer. No matter how bad your day is, you'll still have something you can fall back on. I really hope that helps. I will be posting a link in the description box below of a written article, including all the studies. And until then, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you very much. I'll speak to you soon.